Here we go. All right, so let's do this. And this is still chapter one. They've broken down the chapter in two. You all see the screen just to make sure. Yeah. Okay. Cool. They're making changes continuously to Zoom, and I think a lot of teachers are turning off on Zoom and heading into other platforms like Webex or even Microsoft Teams. So somewhere along the way, I have a feeling we are going to switch away from Zoom. I think it's gotten to their heads how big they are and coming out of nowhere. All right, cool. So yesterday we looked at certain aspects of marketing. What is marketing? I do give you some insights on what marketing is. Here in this case, we're looking at marketing mix and what that is. Anybody know what marketing mix would be? Offhand, what is the marketing mix? Can anybody just let us know? Different concept of marketing is marketing mix. Okay, like what? Give me an idea. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by concepts? Different. Oh, okay. Well, not really. Okay, but that we talked about that yesterday, right? Different types of marketing. There's so many different types of marketing. It's just unbelievable. I mean, there's new marketing. Even now, like we talked about the pivot, we're going to talk about that further on in the course. There's even pivot marketing now, right? Where a company is going in one direction and all of a sudden they pivot to go into a different direction because of certain circumstances. So not necessarily that. Any other ideas of what marketing mix is? Please shut your mics, please, if you're not going to give us any good, nice comments. Don't want to hear people screaming and yelling in the background. Yes, Neha? Ah, fantastic. Thank you so much for that. Yes, absolutely. So, marketing, and it has changed a little bit, right? There's a lot of P's in the marketing mix. And like I just mentioned, one also, the new one, which is to pivot, right? It's getting to be more and more popular to add that to the marketing mix, and also people, right? People is also a big part of marketing mix. So a lot of people or a lot of marketers add usually the fifth P, which is people. So as you can see, right, as Nia says, there's four. They're all start with the letter P. So you really want to remember what marketing mix is. Just remember the letter P, right? Price, product, place, and promotion. And the fifth one and the sixth one are both P's also, which is people and which is also pivot. But pivot really is not a mix, part of the mix, but I like to add it in there just to, only because it starts with the letter P, so you could remember it. Explain how an organization maximizes the value of its customers. Identify fundamental methods for measuring effectiveness of certain activities in marketing. And also we're looking at the ethical considerations, and there's another type of marketing, impact marketing. All right. So when we assess customer needs, that's the first thing that we like to look at in marketing, because that's, I mean, why do people buy? We talked about that yesterday. You know, the main reason people buy is because they need it. If they don't need it, certainly they're not going to buy. But marketing likes to produce needs or create needs, and that's one thing that is very strong when you have a marketing campaign. That it's usually what it does, right? It creates needs. So assessing customer needs, an organization collects information about needs to determine if a market is worth pursuing. So what I'd like to do also in your I'm just going to give you some heads up on what you're going to be including in your intro to marketing project is sometimes I like to do surveys. We might not do a survey in this project, but certainly surveys is a big ingredient in how marketing works today. is that they ask questions, right? I told you that yesterday, the importance of asking questions and getting answers. Well, marketing asks a lot of questions to find out what people like, colors, style, you name it, right? Why do people buy things? And so surveys are not just a component of marketing now. I think it's right up there as being the first step to find out if you're going in the right direction or what's the direction to take if you are going to start a marketing campaign. Is you got to ask questions, right? So we see a lot of surveys all over the place in all the major social media platforms. So that is huge component that is only going to get bigger, and the questions are going to be even more precise. Like I told you yesterday about Elon Musk, right? Here he is, multi-billionaire, right? Came out of nowhere. He actually landed in Canada, believe it or not. He's from South Africa, and he landed in Canada with $2,000. I forget what year it was, and then he moved on to the States, and he only had like $2,000 in his pocket, and he really stuck to his ideas, and you must give it to him as an entrepreneur. But even today, this guy, you know, he's got so much stuff going around, and he takes the time to answer tweets and to find out what customers think. He asks questions directly. So could you imagine? You can't get a better marketer than this guy, like I mentioned yesterday. So assessing customer needs, an organization collects information about needs to determine if a market is worth pursuing. A lot of companies want to not eliminate risk, because you can't eliminate risk, or you know, the chances of losing money, because that's going to happen no matter what. But you're trying to alleviate it as much as possible. You know, bring it down, and you know, not have any unknown events that will change the world as this event has changed the world. So not even the best marketer in the world would have guessed that we would be going through what we're going through today. So the unknown is the unknown. So risk is always going to be there. So as it says there, marketing analysis, right? Marketers consider market demand, the sales, of course, potential production capabilities, right? Because that's a big part. And also, can I make this product, right? The availability of resources. If you don't have the resources, forget about it. It's just not going to work. That is a big issue now, more and more, with, again, talking about Mr. Musk, right? One of his ingredients that he needs to make his batteries, because right now he's coming up with these phenomenal batteries. He's got a new battery coming out where he did some research where it could go for 400 kilometers on one charge. That is going to be very something special if he competes with gas when you go for one charge for 400 kilometers. But the huge ingredient for batteries is cobalt, right? And what he's done is he's just bought a ton of cobalt from as many sources as he can find, because he knows without the cobalt he can't make his batteries, right? And that's a big issue also with phones. Phones need gold, copper, silver, special metals that are not found everywhere, right? And Apple did the same thing. They went out and got themselves a contract with some suppliers for some of the metals that they need to make their phones. Because, hey, you can have all the technology in the world, right? I mean, you can have the most unbelievable idea, but if you don't have the resources to build it, resources being people at times too, it's not going to happen. Customer analysis, marketers monitor social demographic behavior changes to detect new product opportunities. Yes, consumer analysis is an ongoing thing. It just doesn't stop. So far so good. Target market identification and selection. Target market is certainly a group of people to which a company markets its products. Age, education, lifestyle, activity are some of the common factors that they look for when they target markets, or they in general. Also, what you have to understand about target markets, and we're going to ask you in your project to give us an idea of what the target markets are. We certainly not looking for something like, oh, the whole world is our market. You know, we're really looking for specifics. So target marketing is specifics, and so you would need to do that too in your project. And speaking of the famous marketing mix, I hope you see that it's kind of small. Product, price, distribution, which or place, and are also marketing communications or also promotions. And you also have here lower on the consumer side as the actual public image, right? So public image is a big thing in marketing, and I'm going to ask you a question, or you'll see that in the questions. I'll ask you a question about public image. What do you think about public image? How important is public image? Anybody can tell me what is public image? What does that mean, right? It says their reputation, customer sensitivity, so on and so forth. What's the importance of a company's public image? Anybody can answer that. It's the goodwill of the company. Okay, can you explain? Oh, okay. So public image will monopolize a market. Is that what you're saying? A good bit. Okay. Now, how would they do that? How do you think a public image would monopolize? Because monopolize means they would be the only supplier of that market, right? So, what do you mean by that? Can you explain? Nikita? Oh, okay, cool. I apologize. Thinking's good. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's partially true, right? When it comes to public image, it's all about that for sure. And but in general, I think public image has got to do certainly with loyalty in many ways, right? To get customers to be loyal and to buy from them, they always want to respect an image, right? We always think about that when we think about certain images. Like if I would ask you to just think about, don't even tell me what it is, but if I would ask you, what do you think is the best brand in the world today? Don't even answer that. Just think about what do you think is the best brand in the world today, right? So you have an image in your mind, right, of what is that best brand based upon what, right? All right. So let me ask you this: uh, Is there? You don't even have again. You don't have to answer this, but think about a public image of a brand that you never purchased. Okay. Think about a public image of a brand that, or if you purchased once, but not more than once, but were completely satisfied with it, right? But think about a brand in general that you've never purchased before and its public image, and that is the best brand there is. And you say, oh, yes, that is the best. I've never purchased that brand, but if I have to purchase, that's what I would buy, right? Yeah. Yeah, it's the public image. Because of what in today's world? What is the number one thing that really makes us feel that that is uh, the best brand, even if we haven't bought it before? What makes us think that way? What other ingredient we're missing that you haven't mentioned? That yeah, yeah. That's a good rate, right? What you mentioned right there. What a rate that would be if word of mouth equals one person will pass on the information to 100 people. That I think marketers would love that rate, right? One. Well, yes, of course, but what I'm saying is that no matter what, could you imagine if that was the ratio that every person can reach out and network with by word of mouth? Again, what we mean by word of mouth certainly it's got to do with social media or videos or stuff like that that you put on YouTube, and so you know if that's the case, right? So everyone has that power to reach 100 people by just talking online. That's phenomenal, right? That is phenomenal. So that is the actual ratio, 100 per person. Certainly, marketers would want to take advantage of such an avenue or network in their public image. That would be incredible. So yeah, before we had the internet, I'm not even sure if any of you remember or have lived without the internet, but before there was the internet, certainly the only way of doing it was radio or TV. But underlining all that, I know growing up, one of the main things was exactly that. It was the word of mouth. Even if it was maybe you didn't reach out to as many people, right? But if you were a student and you were in a school, certainly if you were wearing a specific, I know growing up, the main, let's say jeans was a big thing in the 1970s when jeans was really took off, and the main brand was not Levi's. The main brand in the 70s was Lee's. The Lee jeans really was the jean that everybody wanted above and beyond Levi's, or let's say even the Calvin Klein didn't exist in the 70s, right? But that was the brand only because of how people wore it, right? And students wore it, or my classmates used to wear it, and or like a jean jacket also was the biggest thing was the Lee's jean jacket. It was like the thing that you had to wear. So anybody that wore a Lee's jean jacket, right, it was like, okay, that's the style, right? If they have it, I've got to get it, right? So the image is sometimes the public image really is the public, right? That's why it's called the public image more than anything. Is that I'm wearing it, so everybody has to have. If everybody sees me wearing this is popular, right? Uh, their chances are someone else will go buy it and wear it. So this is a big thing that has taken off in marketing uh, more and more today because of social media, and there's a bigger reach than it was before before the internet. Uh, Product strategy, right? A product may possess tangible, intangible characteristics. Certainly, most services would be tangible or intangible. A service is anybody would know what, I'm sure you do. Yeah, most services, if not all services, are intangible versus tangible. You can't touch it, right? So most products are tangible. Not all products are really all tangible, but in general, products are tangible, and certain characteristics of products that are tangible and some characteristics of products are intangible, right? So product decisions are numerous and embrace a lot of different parts of it, stuff like quality, features, the actual name, the image again, size, format, service, and package design. These are all not all tangible, right? Quality certainly is intangible. Features could be both, right? Tangible and intangible. Brand name is intangible. Image also. Size is tangible. Format tangible. Service intangible, and design certainly tangible, right? So there are different qualities that products have both sides. What the product does for you, why you buy a product, that's the intangible part of a product, right? Strategy, establishing a fair, equitable price for customers while being profitable for the organization. Price decisions considers the following: cost, location, desired profit, and also degree of competition. The one thing about price when it comes to the marketing mix, right, versus the other three, is that price is the only part where it's profitable, where you actually make money. The other three, product is cost, promotion is cost, right, and place is cost. While price is not cost, is profit. You can make money. It's the only one that you actually make money for your organization, right? Again, we talk about promotion being a cost, is the one aspect where a lot of companies today want to reduce promotion costs because they're steep, they're very, very high. We're gonna certainly look at certain things, but one thing you should look at if you do have Netflix or have the ability, or even I think it's on YouTube, there's one series that talks about promotion and advertising and the cost of it and how it started, you know, in advertising in the 60s or late 50s. The series is called Mad Men. If you haven't seen that series, you'll see where advertising comes from and why it's so expensive, and how people come up with advertising, and you know, way back, like I said, the late 50s and the 60s. So that's a great series to watch if you've never seen it. It's called Mad Men, and it talks a lot about, you know, about advertising. And a lot of people became very rich just on advertising even today. So advertising is a cost. It's a huge cost. It's all about promoting products. And in today's world, again, I take the example of Mr. Musk. He doesn't do much advertising, right? He doesn't actually spend a lot of money in advertising. He is the advertising, right? When he opens his mouth, if you have a Twitter account, you'll see that whenever he opens his mouth, it's a bit like the other guy in the States there. I'm not going to say his name, but he runs the States a little bit now. When he says something, you know, everybody has an opinion. Well, Elon Musk is the same thing, if not more so, right? When he says something, all his followers, because they're called followers, that's an incredible term if you think about it. All his followers on Twitter, you know, like his tweets, and he will say anything and anything about his product, and people will respond. So he is the advertising machine of Tesla, and it's just one person, and it's simple advertising. Say whatever he wants, and people will react to it. It's an incredible thing. So that's pricing strategy, distribution or place, right? The selection management of marketing channels and physical distribution of products. Wholesalers and retailers are the main parts, right? You've got producers, and you have distribution, and then you have consumer. There are different channels that I think we're going to look at. I'm not sure, but I can tell you that there are different channels, right? There is direct channel, where you go from producers of goods directly to consumers, right? Then you'll have indirect channel, where it's exactly like this here, right? You got producers of goods. It goes through some kind of distribution, be it wholesale, retailers, and sometimes you'll get even agents. You'll get a lot of you know, middlemen that will take care of the product, and then it gets to the consumer. So direct, where it goes from producers to consumers. Indirect, where it goes through some kind of channel, like I mentioned, wholesalers or retailers. The third one is dual, right? Dual means that a company will have both types of channels. They'll have direct and indirect. Just to give you an example, Apple, right, when they started, Apple, they sold all their products direct, right? You want to buy Apple products, they would sell from themselves to consumers. Apple is not direct anymore. It's dual, right? So you can buy the products direct from them, apple.ca, or you can go to Best Buy or other sites to buy, certain other sites to buy their products. So they are dual, okay? And the last one is called, it's a good point, what's it called? It's called, I think it's called, no, it's not called recycle, but it's like recycle. What it is right, it's a channel where all of a sudden, because the products are being recycled and reused, right, it's from consumer back to producers of goods. Remember before I mentioned the fact that a lot of products like phones and computers have certain metals inside of them and that need to be able to be reused, right? Because one iPhone has a bit of gold, a bit of silver, a bit of copper, and metals, right? But that one phone is not worth very much because you need to extrapolate the actual metals from that phone, right? So the actual producers will not give you a lot of money for that phone or will not give you any money. But a lot of people collect these old phones and bring them back to the producers, and the producers take them apart and they reuse the metals that are in that product, right? That's exactly what they do. This goes for old TVs, this goes for monitors, and this also goes for tires, right? Old tires are being reused, so it goes back from the consumer, right? If you have a car and your tires are finished, right? You take your tires, you bring them to the gas station, and the gas station sends them back to the producer. And what they do is they tear them down and they reuse them. So this is a huge channel today too. That's the actual fourth distribution channel of today. Mattresses, right? A lot of people right now are taking mattresses apart and they're reusing the wood, they're reusing the springs and all of that. So this is a huge market from consumer back to the producers. That's the fourth channel. Strategy change. Here we go. Change in consumer behavior is fueling direct distribution strategies to consumers. Among Canadian internet users, 77% research goods and services online. 56% order goods and services for direct delivery. Right. This is the power of Amazon. Total value of goods and services ordered online. I would think. Anybody guess what's the actual percentage today? This is 2012, was 18.9 billion. Anybody could look that up and tell me what is the total value of goods and services consumed like right this minute after 2 months of pandemic? What do you think is the actual value here? Anybody like to guess how much money is? I don't know. I'm just I would think it's quite high, right? But in 8 years, and especially after 3 months of going through this pandemic, where people stayed home and purchased everything and anything, including groceries, right? That's the number one thing that just exploded since this pandemic, is that people buy their food online. So what do you think is the amount today in 8 years? Do you think it's 100 billion, 200 billion online today? If you note what it says at the bottom. Yeah, I know. That's a heck of a number, right? Online. But I would think, Balpreet, that after what we're going through now, and by this time at the end of this year, I would think it's probably going to be double that. What do you think? Yeah, it's probably going to be probably double what it was a couple of years ago at the end of this year, because it's not going away. People are still buying online, even if we reopened the economy, the stores. I think gyms opened yesterday, malls opened yesterday, restaurants opened yesterday. All this, I still think, Balpreet, that uh, I know myself. If I'm an example, is I certainly will. The first thing I will do is I will ask myself, how do I get this product? Can I get it at the same price online? If that's the case, I will buy it online. Right? That's the number one thing. So I think if I'm thinking that way, I would think a lot of people are thinking that way also. So I think you're right. I think we can easily get to 160 billion, or in by the end of this year, if not very close, right? Not very, very close. So that's a huge business that's being done directly online. Us buying directly by going straight to the actual production, or producer, I should say. So marketing communication strategies. There's many ways you could define this, right? The blending of advertising, promotion, event marketing, sponsorship, all of these put together, right? And persuasive message. Here's a word that a lot of marketers don't like to use, is to convince or to persuade. It just doesn't sound right, but here it is: persuasive message about a product or service. And this is all about integrated marketing communications, IMC. This is the coordination of relevant forms of marketing communications, all smashed in together, but in a unified way that maximizes the impact on consumers, right? So it's a term and a half, right? Integrated marketing communications. In other words, really just the strategy to get the word out there is what it is, right? And there is a mix for that, right? Media advertising, sales promotion, public relations, experiential marketing. There's so much more on top of that too, right? We talked about what social media has done, and also content marketing, which is part of social media. That's a big part too. So the IMC mix is expanding more and more when it comes to integrating other types or other forms of communication to get the word out to the consumer, right? Again, it's like I mentioned yesterday. The main goal of marketing is, I want your money. How do I get it? What do I have to do? How creative do I have to be to get your money? Not just once, but for the rest of your life, right? How can I do that? And that's always the actual question that marketers ask themselves, is creativity level. How far can I go? Is a main thing. Again, we talked about public image, right? An important component of organization. Reputation is an important asset, and something that is earned through good marketing. We can talk about that very quickly, about earning public image. Organization must be sensitive to consumer needs, encourage customer loyalty, and be social responsible. So give me one possible reason why this could be disappear. You could work at this for 20 years, right? And then you earn this good marketing, and you have a fantastic public image. Give me an example of what could crumble a public image today. Uh, in what way, Rishikesh? How would you say that? Give me an example. Hmm. Would you think that can you would you be possible to give me a real life example? A real life example, like an example of an actual product that did that, right? It had a fantastic public image, and then they did something to their product quality or changed it, and then anybody? Do you have an example, a real life example of this? While I sip my coffee. Okay, so you have an actual existing one that you can mention? Okay. Didier, can you mention where you're from and what the name of the restaurant is? Or if you want, if you don't want to, just you know, it's cool. What or what is the name of the restaurant then? Oh, okay. And they changed the cook and they changed the menu and then after that flop. Yeah. Oh, okay. Wow. That happens quite often, right? In restaurants, you're absolutely correct on that. That's a good example, especially in certain cities like here in Montreal. It's such a variety of restaurants that the chef here plays a big part in the success of the restaurant. To tell you that here, before this pandemic, there's always a group of chefs uh, that would open a restaurant, and after a certain time, people would get fed up and they would start, you know, not going there anymore. And then they would open up a new restaurant with the same chef, right? Because he had this reputation, this image that was good, that was so good that on his own, just the fact that he opened the restaurant or he runs the restaurant as the chef, people would go, right? That's a good example. Any other examples, real life examples of products that were at the top and a fantastic public image, and then they did something, and that was it. Okay, so well, how would you use Apple products as that example? Because the public image of the iPhone right now is at the highest level it's ever been. Yeah. Aha. But what I'm saying, go ahead. Yeah, Nokia, right? Or Nokia? Yes. And now, really, well, actually, Nokia is making a little bit of a comeback, but it's still far from what it was. It was like the number one phone in the whole world was Nokia. But the other example is also BlackBerry. BlackBerry here in North America was the number one phone because of its actual, you know, keyword keyboard that they used to be on their phones. Everybody had. I had a BlackBerry when I was growing up. It was my first phone. Everybody had a, you know, BlackBerry before the iPhone did. But what they did was they didn't want to change that, you know, instead of changing or going with the times and coming up with something new. BlackBerry at that time was called Research in Motion, which is a Canadian company, and they decided not to change the phone, you know, or ask the consumer what kind of phone they wanted, and they stuck to the same type of phone. And of course, when the competition came in, which is iPhone, I mean, it just swallowed up all the all the BlackBerry, customers. And so right now, I mean, it's still a good phone, the BlackBerry, but there's not many people that are convinced about that. And the image of BlackBerry, when it comes to phones, is pretty much gone. Right now, BlackBerry is renowned as a company that does security online more than phones. So their lack of decisions, or their lack of upgrading their phones to what the consumers were looking for, killed the BlackBerry phone. And it's an unbelievable example. Just like Nokia, same thing. They just didn't change with the times, and it went down. Another example today could be, gas cars versus electric cars. I get back to the electric cars thing. I'm stuck there. And I don't have an electric car, but a gas car companies that are not moving fast enough to catch up to Tesla, which is number one now when it comes to cars. It's number one company in the world, value-wise, right? Value-wise, they're worth 150 billion or something like that. They're really topped all the other companies in value. But no one is reacting like Toyota, which is second, or Volkswagen, making a high percentage of electric cars as Tesla is. They're making a little bit, instead of making as many as possible to get it out there. And so that's a big issue for a lot of companies that might go bankrupt when it comes to gas, right, versus electric. We're almost done here. Maximizing customer value, building customer relationships, right? Marketing today is about building relationships, like I mentioned before, getting customers for a long, long time, and keeping them, right? So this is CRM, right? Customer relationships management refers to strategies that optimize profitable revenue, customer retention, and customer satisfaction. I can tell you that when CRM came out online and through softwares, I remember when that happened. This happened in the 1980s, 1990s, I should say, late 90s. That CRM became a term, and people started to use it. It went from nothing to everybody wants to get on board. All companies were using customer relationship management because it worked. Really what it is that you're trying to get prospects and trying to find out where your market is the big thing, right? That's what that is. Successful CRM programs like Salesforce, if you know what that is, it's a monster company that all they're doing is a service, and it's all it is CRM. They rely on strong internal data and system or management system. All they're doing is gathering information for companies. They gather all this information and they sell this information to companies. They'll say, okay, you're making computers. Let me just give you my CRM information. Where are your possible prospects to gain market share? That's what CRM does, right? In many cases, the relationship is probably the wrong word, right? So here, customer retention strategies, loyalty programs, you name it. Everybody's doing all kinds of things to keep customers forever. And like I said, trying to get lifetime value customers. Customer relationship programs involves anything and everything to gain customers. And it's all done by software and by gathering information, surveys, asking questions, and it's a huge business today. If you look up Salesforce, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. They're pretty big when it comes to customer relationship management. Let's just almost finish. Customer retention strategies, again, all kinds of programs. Collect, analyze information, like I said, develop new marketing offers, and have some kind of plan to communicate this to the market is what they do. So they allow for a lot of their employees to do this research and to gather all this information. Then they, like I said, they bundle all this information up, and what they're doing is they're selling a program as information, right? So what they're doing is they're gathering all this information about a certain market, and they're going here to customers. It'll cost you millions of dollars, but here, you want to be successful in the market, this is what you've got to do. And they're right, and they work very hard at this, and this is why some of these companies now are worth billions and billions of dollars. because their management programs, you know, are based on AI, artificial intelligence. They're based on past history, and also based upon what's going to happen. So you could just imagine today, these type of programs today, how they have to be completely uh, broken down and rebuilt because of what's happening with this pandemic, right? So they have a lot of work ahead of them. So what is this creating? It's creating possible opportunities for new companies, competition to come on board. Because a lot of these companies are probably going to do like BlackBerry and say, "Oh, I don't want to change. My strategy works," right? But it's not going to work if we keep going and this pandemic goes on for the next year or so. There's going to have to be a new thing to find a way around this kind of strategy, right? So think about that. That's just something really phenomenal that we're going through. So if you really want to start your company and you have a great idea, now is the time, right? There's not a better time. So there's a lot of good things, if you want to call them good things, that we can get out of this pandemic. Not many, but that certainly is one. Evaluating the activity, right? Marketing strategies must periodically reviewed for effectiveness. Again, we're talking about that today, right? Marketing conditions or market conditions, external influences, can't be more true than that today. Competitor activity, again, can't be more true than this today, right? A lot of companies have gone bankrupt, and a lot of companies are starting up today and finding success very, very quickly. One company that you should look at is Beyond Meats, right? Beyond Meats, it's not actually meat. It's just grain-fed or grass products that look and taste like meat, but it's not meat. But this has absolutely exploded today, right? Because a lot of people don't want to eat meats, and these products have really taken off and are competing against meat, right? They're absolutely taking over the market when it comes to certain products. You could have them anywhere today. So this is what competition does. It looks for different avenues that they can actually compete with the existing ones, right? Brand performance to date, right? Potential changes in marketing strategies. Again, today, this is a huge, huge thing. And here, last slide, right? Ethical considerations for marketing. Business ethics defined as a study and examination of moral and social responsibility in relationship to practices and decision making in business. So I'm quite sure you hear about what's going on around the world. People are not taking anybody's farces anymore, if you want to call them that. And consumers today want suppliers or producers or marketers or retailers to be transparent, right? So if you're saying a product will do A, B, C, and D, right, it should be doing that all the time. And it's not, it can't be made up. So business ethics have to do with being truthful, being up and up with their products. So this is getting to get even more so going forward. The ethics where people will speak up and it'll go further than just an actual review in the future. And a lot of companies will lose their public image if their ethical behavior or unethical behavior, I should say, in business, you know, is too out there. They will certainly lose all their public image in a flash if they don't follow certain standards and rules of transparency for their business, right? Yes, there's a code of ethics here in Canada, just like everywhere else, and most countries have that. Business today strives for sustainability, ability to sustain, or capacity to endure. Wow, that is certainly something that a lot of companies work extremely hard to do, is to sustain and keep on going. And if you look at the power of certain companies today, they have found the magic solution, right? Certain companies today, like Apple, like you mentioned before, if you follow stock prices, you'll know that Uh, stock price absolutely exploded yesterday. And if anybody can tell me why Apple's stock price went up enormously. What did Apple say yesterday?
Just a sec.
No, thank you.
I couldn't find can't tell me why Apple's in your music.
Thank you. So what do you think Apple, speaking of Apple, what do you think, what did Apple do yesterday that really did something to their market or to their stock price? Anybody know? Anybody follow the stock market? You can even look it up. Tell me what did Apple do yesterday? No, not yet. That's not yet, right? Is it out yet? I'm not even sure. Is it? I think it's coming out in September. No, the new phone. But what will that new phone have? Or actually, what will that new iPhone not have compared to all the other iPhones in there? Speaking of public image and upticking. No. All right, so let's let you know, we'll finish off with this, is that they're switching microprocessors. They used to use Intel. Intel is a monster company that most computers have Intel or AMD processors. And Apple decided to make their own processors, and their new phones, they said, should have their own microprocessors. So this is a huge thing to switch away from a distributor or a company like Intel, which is trusted in industry, to switch to something on their own. So now what they're doing is, again, you talked about monopolization, but they're really trying to monopolize the market and trying to be as independent as possible. So that is an incredible thing that they're doing. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that, is that the companies that are big like Apple, their public image is important. For them, their products have to be their products, and more they're finding ways to do this, right? It's unbelievable, but that's what it is. Right, so that's the second part.